Oh, wow. So, hey, all, my name is Keisha. I am an energy alignment specialist and I want to come on and talk about ways to keep our energy aligned, reducing levels of stress. And so that way you can be able to move through your day better. All right. So, what was bringing this on was I was thinking about how easy it is for us to uh, rehash, vent, think things over more than we need to and the impacts of replaying a scenario in your mind. And I think we all have gone through it or have done this where something has happened. And when it happened, then we feel the need to want to share this story, share this experience with someone else. Okay. And in the process of doing that, what's happening is we're increasing like our cortisol levels. We're raising the stress inside of our bodies, and it's creating more and more anxiety, tension, and frustration inside of you. And another thing too is like the more you repeat it, like repetition. Like think about when you are learning something new, you want to repeat it. Like when we first learned math, when we first learned English, we would rewrite our times tables or write it multiple times so that way, as you repeat it, you can start to remember it, and then it becomes essentially a new belief. You know. Yeah. So when you're repeating, now when you're learning something great, something new, this is great because now you're like, okay, you're building momentum into achieving the said desired result, which is to learn a specific skill. But in regards to something negative, like you're venting, what's happening is you're reinforcing a negative belief until it now is something that becomes a part of you. The reason why it'll become a part of you because it's now a belief, you know. So the more you repeat of negative experience, whether in your thoughts and especially verbally, now you're sending out the sound waves, the vibrational frequency is moving out into the ether. It's now creating a momentum for this thing to grow until the same negative thing that you don't want anymore becomes a belief. So, what I found is that when you start to allow yourself to clear your mind, let go of the negative chatter, and start to let go of any of the rehashing of the past, then you begin to free up your mind, free up the mental bandwidth for more productive thoughts. Okay. Studies actually show that repetitive or negative thinking, such as rehashing from the past, it does lead also to like a cognitive decline and it will, outside of just increasing your stress. Matter of fact, there's a study that has shown it was published in the JAMA Psychiatry, and they found that people who focus on the present they actually have lower stress levels, lower cortisol levels, and their stress hormones, which lead to like a better mental clarity, which helps improve your decision making. Not only does so, if you think about that before I go on to the next thing on why it's so important, so there's one if you continue to focus on the negative and repeat it verbally by venting, then you're you're reducing your mental clarity. All right. So you're also now creating a new negative beliefs. Those two things right there. Uh, when you constantly revisit the past, it can also lead to chronic stress and emotional exhaustion. So there's been studies there also. So, according to the American Psychological Association, there's chronic stress. It affects your emotional health, making it harder to cope with current challenges. So, by limiting your venting and focusing on the present, you will begin to build your emotional resilience, which will help you respond to your situation better with a clearer and calmer mindset. So, the more we are ramping ourselves up, like if you vent one time and then you vent again and then somebody else heard about the situation. Now you repeat it and then you repeat it again. Before you know it, you've built up so much stress and cortisol into your body that it makes it harder physically, like mentally, it's almost impossible for you to think clearly. And now you're operating off of emotions, and now your emotions are controlling you versus you controlling your emotions. So essentially, when they say you're giving your power away, this is how you're giving your power away, because what you're doing is the strength that you did have in the beginning, each time you vented, you've done something to your physical body where you've raised the stress levels. And when you raise the stress levels, you began to lose. It's like you kept using a remote or something, and now the battery's going down, 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 down on your cell phone or whatever, tool that you're using. And since we're all energy, when you're giving your energy away through the venting, you're essentially losing power. So this is how you're giving your power away by surrendering to your emotions. And we may think because we're humans that we're living this human experience, and because we're living this human experience, then of course, as I'm doing this human thing, I'm supposed to have emotions. Of course I'm going to be emotional. I am living in the present. These are all things that's easy for all of us to think, including myself. Like I've been there, and going through, whether it's hormonal changes and balances, life stresses. It's easy to surrender into these emotional waves and not realize how it starts to subconsciously become an inner belief. And then once it becomes that belief, um, you start to repeat it in habits. You feel me? Uh, so the way to break that is to start to be aware that you're doing it, first of all. Realize that maybe you do have an addiction or some form of habit of feeling that you need to communicate these things. And maybe you're doing it as a way of as a coping mechanism or a way of clearing things, but not realizing that as you're doing the venting, it's actually minimizing your energy, reducing your frequency, and essentially draining you of your power and capacity to make a better decision in that particular situation. To forward movement, having forward movement in this, it's about allowing yourself to cut the cord and say, you know what, this is the past. This is what I can control. This is what I can't control. Here's how I'm going to move forward. When you're holding on to sharing this negative experience with somebody else, there's whether it's some form of validation, you're looking for support in regards to someone connecting with you and understanding you, feeling seen or feeling heard, then we're doing this thing where we're constantly um, withdrawing our own inner power with the need to give it to somebody else, whether to for one of those things that I just mentioned, validation, support, and things like that, and feeling seen and heard. So, what's best is to have the forward momentum mentality, okay, where you let go of having to continually look back and continually feed, the stresses, the stress receptors in your body. One way that I've learned to do it is by saying, you know what, let me just say, limit myself. How I first started doing it, I told myself, let's limit myself to the number of events I'm going to do in a day. Instead of venting anytime or sharing it with my closest friends or different people that I want to see, how about we limit it to one time a day? I'm only going to live about this particular topic on event one time. If one sounds too far off, then bring it down to three. Bring it down to a number that you're comfortable with until you can bring it down to one and bring it down to zero till eventually you're not venting about anything. The goal is to let go of the past fully. And as you work yourself to that point, you have grace on yourself so that way you can say, let me work through this another way. And we say grace because we don't know exactly how you're going to work through things. We don't know what emotional trigger may come up that may bring you into a state of anger, frustration, sadness, depression, or loss. So, but if you allow yourself the grace to work through this at a pace that is balanced for your nervous system, within time, you will begin to just let things go as it's happening, moving in the present. And we may have been taught, or you may have been taught also, that it was this is a weak way of dealing with it. I'm not by not addressing it or not, checking the person that right there in the moment, or not, um, or just dealing with it right then and there with the person. So, but there's an old saying where you have to know when to pick and choose your battles, and this is definitely a part of it. And the battle that we never think about is our own inner battle, the battle that we have within ourselves, the mind chatter that comes up, the things that we've suppressed, the things that we're not processing, and we are essentially depleting our life force. So to get back in, right, and start to feel back into our body, I say do practice meditation, practice releasing, practice connecting with nature, practice just accepting being in that moment. And this will help you, especially in the times that you're triggered, especially in the times that you feel like you need to vent. It will allow you some freedom to say, oh, it's okay. It's okay this hurt my feeling. It's okay I'm disappointed. It's okay that this isn't right. It's not okay that they did that. However, I don't have to give away my energy into this right now. And what you can do is just start to process internally what's coming up so that way you won't be moving in the stress mode. Okay. So I hope this helps outside of dealing with the stress through meditation or just being still. I say finding ways to shift the energy, shift your state so that way you're not sitting in this negative state and spiraling down. So sometimes moving your body move into a different state, whether you exercise, take a walk, jumping jacks, whatever the case, dancing. These are all wonderful ways to be able to reconnect back into self and shifting your state so that way you're getting out of that mode. Watching something funny and start to laugh. That way it helps. It may sound like a distraction, but it's actually like a buffer for you to do a segue from doing the old habit. The old habit may have been vent, talk to everybody about it, smoke, drink, hit whatever vice that works for you. But if you release that way of dealing with it and you find a different way, now you can say, okay, well, you know what? There's another way. You can be able to settle it down, see where the anxiety is coming from, breathe through it, and come back to a space where your mind is balanced and know from that space what's the right thing for you to do. Okay. So it's my first time doing a live. My name is Keisha Martin. I'm an energy alignment specialist. I am here to be able to help bring some insight on how to move through your energies. Okay. Um, if you like this content and you would like more, support a sister. I am all for being able to produce more that can be able to help you in your day to day. But I'm also trying to reach as many people. So be sure to subscribe to my channel. And I have some resources below. So be sure to, if you want to learn how to do it, you've been finding it hard to get still, definitely click one of the links or reach out to me so that way I can be able to, you know, point you in the right direction. So my name is Keisha Martin, and I will see you again the next time.